Hello.
What's up, Ellie? How are you?
Hey,
I was just
I'm pretty
looking
good.
and trying to figure out how to open up this. I can see the messages come in through the chat, but I'm not sure how to send one. Uh,
Yeah, I think Restream is kind of weird. I'm not sure if you can send one through here, but if you want to send anything, you can just send it to me and I'll send it, and then it'll send to all the places. I'm pretty sure, except for Twitter. Twitter is weird. They don't do things, I guess.
I actually just opened the Twitch stream in another tab, so I can just send it over there. So I guess making the Twitch account was good, anyways. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, you can definitely do that. I see some people are in the chat. There's Alex, Val, Dan, Roxy. Hello.
What's up, people? How are you?
Roxy was at that conference last week, so we were hanging
How
out a
was that?
lot. It was
Yeah,
really good. Actually, so did somebody talk to you about that yet or not?
I just got a little bit of brief update from some of the team members, but I heard it was a really good time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. The chat people can verify this that we're there. There's probably going to be a few people that were actually there, but I feel like when we were there, everybody was like, "Oh, pieces!" Yeah, like everybody knew who we were and stuff, and there was a lot of hype and stuff. So I thought it went really well. Oh, look, there's Jim.
Hey,
Jim
Jim.
can verify the hype.
I waved at him.
Hey,
Nice.
Upa. Upa's our resident troller, so he said he wouldn't troll you because you're the CEO and everything. But
That's all right. I don't mind a little vibrancy in the chat. That's cool with me. Trust me,
yeah,
I get trolled all the time by investors and stuff, and yeah, it's hilarious.
oh no, that must be worse than getting trolled by the chat. How do you get trolled by investors? They're like, oh, we want to invest, then we're just kidding, or
No,
how does that go?
usually it's like you put together like a whole deck or something, and at the end they only care about like one number on one slide, and so it's kind of just like yeah, it's just yeah, I don't know, it's nuanced, and sometimes
Mhm.
like I don't know. So it's not like meme trolling or something, like that you might get like on Reddit or on a chat or whatever. Investors are more so like just low key like grilling, but that's all good. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess Upa's form of trolling is definitely different. He'll just like ask the most bizarre questions, and then you're
that's
like, okay, that's definitely off topic, but we will answer. Oh yeah, Mika was at that conference too. So it is
nice,
not Michaela. I don't even
nice.
know how to say Mika's full name. Michaela? I don't know. I always say Mika, so now I'm confused. But yeah, and I think you know Dan, the person called Grappling Dev down there. He was on one of the learning pieces on the official chat or on the official channel. He was
Nice.
doing the roadmap thing.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, good to have everyone. Yeah.
I don't think it's me, Kayla. I don't think so. But anyway, so I just want to kind of do as everybody's here pretty much. As you guys know, I got now we're affiliate here, okay? So I do not know when the ads are going to start. I'm sorry in advance. I don't know. I tried to turn them down to like the least amount of ads, but I don't know how long. I think maybe an ad started actually. Wait, I don't
I
know.
have no idea. Well,
Okay,
oh yeah, yeah. And
somebody had an ad.
we're watching something about shrimp right now. At least that's what I'm getting. I don't know.
It's something
Apple
about shrimp.
I got an Applebee's ad. I don't know what type of ads people got, but mine was Applebee's, which is hilarious.
Oh no, oh no.
No, it's
Okay,
good.
so the ad happened already, I'm guessing, and I think it's not going to play another ad for 20 minutes. So I'm not really sure. I think because I just put the ads on the least amount of ads setting and it said like, "Oh, we're not going to do that right away. It's going to update later." And I was like, "Okay, well, I didn't know that, but we'll deal with it." M- Michaela? Michaela?
Michaela.
Oh,
Michaela.
okay. I didn't know that. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have guessed that. Interesting, Mika.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So hopefully everyone's here. Tsavo, can you do a little intro? Who are
Sure.
you? I know you kind of have your little title there, but we want to know who you are, what you're
Yeah.
about, and we want to know what's your favorite color.
Okay, well that's an
Okay.
easy one. Blue is my favorite color. I will say that. I'm a big fan. But yeah, so hey everyone, Tsavo Not here. I'm the CEO and a technical co-founder here at Pieces, and obviously we're building developer tools. Kind of day to day, I do all types of stuff. Sometimes it's getting in the weeds on what's going on with infrastructure and ML and product, and other times it's Excel sheets and PowerPoint slides and things like that. Kind of all the nuances of running a software company and a software startup. So yeah, I can basically answer, anything. I will say deeply technical, been writing code for a long time. I joke sometimes that I've probably written more code in my life than spoken English. Had a couple years there where it's just like grinding. It's still grinding for sure, but I have a lot of roles now. So yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, I wanted to kind of say how we also met in the first
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So I've told this story before. In the very beginning, I talked to Rosie and stuff, and then I guess I don't really know exactly why we ended up talking, if it was just random or if there was a purpose to us
Yeah.
talking. I don't remember that exactly, but I remember like after I talked to Rosie, I think like once or twice, then I talked to you. And then I was like, I have all this feedback. And I like wrote it on a list.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then
that's
I
cool.
thought I like offended you in my
No.
brain.
Oh my God. No, no, definitely not. No, no. Feedback is, if you're a founder and you're offended to feedback, like, yeah, you should not be offended by feedback. No, no, Ellie, I think I scouted you. You were doing a bunch of DevRel stuff on, Twitter. I was like, wow, like this Ellie girl is like pretty with it, like pretty engaged in the communities and stuff. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, like, what are you working on? What are you doing and stuff? And apparently Rosie had already talked to you. So then I was like pleasantly surprised. And now we're here, which is cool. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I do remember you saying that you were originally gonna reach out, I guess, and then I was already talking to Rosie. I
Yeah.
remember that part. So I guess that was probably why we ended up talking too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember because in these live streams, I feel like the topic of feedback comes up a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Just you have a product, and then a lot of people have thoughts about the
Oh, yeah.
products that they use, right? And there's a lot of places where you kind of okay. Chris was at that conference too. He loved the M&Ms. So
Yeah, funny story on
um,
this. Small side note, but we walked into the office and we had no idea that like we had ordered all these bags of M and M's, and like it's like man, like that's a lot of M and M's like sitting on the counter. And I walk up and I'm like, these are pieces M and M's. Like that's hilarious. So I'm glad those were a hit. That's funny.
That's so cool. Yeah, yeah. It was funny because we had this like dispenser machine thing, and then we were just gonna like let people dispense by themselves, but then we realized like the hole was huge.
Yeah,
So if they were to
that's a dangerous
dispense
one.
by themselves, it would have been a mess, but it was cool. And then Upa, by the way, Upa is a big fan of Pieces. I don't know if you saw the video. I mean probably not because I had a few, but I did a interview, like a user interview with Upa because he does some technical writing, and it was so funny and kind of cute because he's never used live context before, but
Oh,
he's been using Pieces for a while. And then I was like, okay, how do you use it? We've been talking
yeah,
for a while now, like 30 or 40 minutes. And I'm like, have you turned this on
yeah,
ever, by the
yeah,
way? And he was like, no. And then he used it for the first time, and his reaction, I just hope that Landon like takes the clip of his reaction and like puts it all over the internet because it was so funny. He's like, oh my god, what?
yeah, yeah. We
It
gotta
was
definitely
wild.
we got to dig that up for sure and make sure that's out there. It's crazy. It is intentionally like buried right now because, like I said, that kind of functionality is only about 11 months in development. But I would say in probably 3 to 4 more months, it'll be a lot more surfaced. Like it'll be surfaced in the feeds and it'll be surfaced in a lot of other areas. And yeah, just making sure it's like running performantly and not drilling your CPU or your battery. Like that's a lot of the stuff we're doing to optimize it before it's like really proliferated. Yeah.
Right. I'm excited for like all the progress and in the changes that are coming up soon.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so many people that could be using it that aren't using it yet, just because maybe they don't know about it. But now, a lot of people from the conference, even people that I know, okay, for example, the choir 238 that just came in here. He's Richard. He's a
Okay.
technical documentation intern at Appright,
Oh,
and he's my friend, but he never used pieces
go
before.
try.
And then finally, through the conference, I guess somebody convinced him, and now he's using it and he's giving me a bunch of feedback and stuff. So it's really exciting seeing people use it, and also for like different purposes, right? You know, because
Oh
he
yeah.
does documentation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, there's people that are working on like hardcore coding stuff over here, and then documentation or writing or whatever it is, you know?
Rock on, Rich. That's awesome. Yeah, we actually have a bunch of features that are going to be coming out specifically around documentation, like documenting your last day, documenting your last hour, and it'll just generate a whole bunch of stuff for you. But yeah, no, right now this quarter we're mostly on a like a performance and stability kind of grind right now. And actually, we have a release that'll go out at the end of this week, and like the desktop app, Pieces OS. I think it's like a order of magnitude, faster across the board, like 10x speed ups on a bunch of stuff. So yeah, and then doing a lot of stuff around retrieval augmented generation. So talking to your Obsidian notes, getting much better with entire code bases, things like that. Yeah, so we're working on it.
That's really cool. I'm very excited. And I'm actually talking to Caleb later today.
Nice.
I don't know if you're in the loop on this either, because it's
Yeah.
sort of a new idea. But we're thinking about doing sort of an open source project with the Pieces
Okay.
SDK and make it
Cool.
like a cool flashcard app for students,
Cool.
but then
Yeah.
also turn it into a hackathon.
That's
So
see how
yeah,
it goes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, the gallery view is kind of like a flashcard. I don't know.
right.
But you can
Right.
do whatever.
I think there's like definitely, because that's what I thought too. I feel like it's almost a flashcard, but it's not, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a pretty, I don't know how hard it would be, but I think there would be an easy way to kind of transform it into something, and then also get students in on it and working on it, and download pieces and use it to study and everything. I see that Upa has a question. All right, so I did want to get into kind of your story. Mark went into it a little bit when he was on here. He was talking about kind of like the whole journey from the beginning
Oh yeah.
and all the ideas. So Upa said, what challenges did you face during the development of pieces, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. And by the way, sorry if I wipe my face. I have a green smoothie that I'm drinking. So I just didn't want to have like full on kale, just kale mustache. But
No
yeah,
worries. Well, we were talking about mustaches like a couple streams ago, how to have the best mustache possible. That was like one of the stream topics. So you missed it. But
I'm
you
clean,
could have
clean.
learned how to have like one of those curly mustaches at that time.
No, no, no shot for me. I'm clean shaven these days. Just I just don't have the facial hair capacity for that. But either way, on a more serious note, yeah, basically the challenges that we faced, building pieces. I mean, there's a lot of challenges. There's the actual like technical challenges, right? To build a product that is a native application shipping across Mac OS, Linux, and Windows. And doing a whole bunch of hardware accelerated machine learning. We were doing this back in like 2019, 2020, when, just a lot of the infrastructure and the off the shelf stuff was just not there. And also like developing small models to tag things, title things, enrich things. That was pretty crazy. I mean, that's all pre large language model era. And even now, a lot of the large language models are in the cloud, but we have a pretty firm belief that you can leverage small language models in a proper orchestration to get some pretty crazy functionality. And then of course, there's non-technical challenges like building a high performing team, right? And kind of sticking to the building blocks of the vision, where it doesn't seem like much at all, and then it's like seemingly nothing, and then suddenly something, right? And so phase one was a pretty simple product. It's like, okay, a place to put code snippets, great. What's so special about that? And then phase two was, all right, great, it's another co-pilot, things like that. But now we're in phase three, where Pieces is starting to identify things to save for you. And then we'll get into phase four, which is now Pieces is serving things back to you in real time, unprompted. And so, as you go along each of those phases, you can get like a lot of people, they can, and this is intentional, right? We don't necessarily roll out the massive vision, all at once, but a lot of people are like, why are you building this? What's the cool thing here? And it's not about what you have, but it's about the foundation that it creates for what's coming, right? And I think as a venture backed startup, we have a extremely large vision, but you have to have those foundational building blocks in place, right? And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. A lot of challenges there. Yeah, keeping.
Okay. So there's kind of two things that I'm curious about. So the thing you just mentioned about like you're kind of setting up the foundation right now, right? But okay, wait, I want to ask the first one first because that's in the past
Sure.
more. So the first one is you were saying that about like building the entire team, right? I
Right.
remember Mark kind of touched on this, but I think there was a few people that didn't hear the whole Mark story. But so you started off with just a really, I think 3 or 4
Yeah.
people or something. How many people did you start off with, and how did you like get the first person you were like, we need to hire somebody? Like, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is like, if you're building a company, you have to be able to be an individual contributor. And I think like the large problem with a lot of software companies is like the early founders maybe don't write a ton of code. And so, that can be really burdensome because you have to go and find a really great developer to do this stuff. But by the time we started Pieces, Pieces is my third company and my fifth major project. I had already written a ton of code, right? And so it was like myself, Mark, and Mac. And then we kind of like grew out from there. Brian as well, my roommate in college, was part of the early days. He was on the machine learning side. He went out to university, got his master's at Edinburgh, and then boomeranged back to build out the ML team. And so your first hires, you have to think about them as like, who do you need to hire and why, right? Because every time you hire someone, you're basically betting on the probability of their success with your resources. And in the early days, if you only raise a couple $100,000, like even $100,000, right? If you go and pay a developer, which their salary is probably $100,000 a year, you're basically taking like all of your company resources and saying like, hey, this is going to be on you to build this product. So we didn't have that problem in the early days. We basically just paid ourselves super small, amounts of money, and we built it out, right? And then from there it's like, okay, how can you scale from a team of like 3 or 4 to a team of 10? And the best way to do that, at least for us, was like network hires, right? So who are all the A+ players that you went to school with, and what are they doing now, and do they have the risk appetite to come and do something like this? And so that's kind of how we built out the ML team, which grew very quickly. We knew that had to be kind of a key resource, and just making sure like that stuff was in as early as possible. Yeah, and then you kind of get to the second degree, third degree network hires, referral hires, things like that, and then you get to the point where you're like, you have recruiters and things like that, or you have people that just directly apply. So yeah, it's just a whole thing, and you never know how someone's going to work out, right? There's a lot of risk involved, but I think you also have to understand like you have to grow as a leader, and you just have to adapt the ways that you interact and motivate people. And so that was another big challenge and a learning curve over the period of our company's lifetime so far. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I don't know how active you are on like the tech Twitter world, but
Yeah.
a lot of people on there are like looking for jobs. I know there are some of my friends in here that are looking for their first job in tech, or they're trying to transition to a new career and everything. So this kind of comes up a lot, where people are like, oh, you need to reach out to those first degree, second degree connections,
Right.
because those people know you already, or they know someone that you guys you have a mutual friend or a mutual connection or something. So that's really interesting. And I remember during that conference also, Rosie said something about like hiring slow is really important in startups because,
Yeah.
it can kind of really have a huge impact if you hire the wrong person.
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely can. I mean, there's a lot of sayings out there like, kind of slow to hire, quick to fire.
Mhm.
In my mind, like I think failing fast is the most important thing. And so, you want to have a good process and you want to have a lot of people involved with that. But at the end of the day, it's all risky, right? Everything's a risk. And so, my kind of thesis is like get in and try and figure it out as fast as you can, right? Because if you need to make a key hire and you're delaying like timelines and certain functionality or whatever else, well, that also is a risk, right? And so it's like, okay, we haven't gotten this feature or this infrastructure out yet. How much does that cost you? Versus how much would it cost you to try and bring someone in and go for it? And so yeah, I think it's just it's a gut feeling in the early days, especially on people. But I would say don't be too timid, right? Just like jump in and figure it out, and that's the only way to kind of do it. Yeah, and I will also say like be super transparent with people and be like, hey, this is
Hmm.
a high risk environment. It's a very demanding job. It's one of the most selective processes in the world to build a company like this, and so you got to make sure you just don't give them false expectations, right? And so that's another thing that leads to successful outcomes with hires. Yeah.
Right, right. That's cool, and that's also one of the things that I've talked about over and over and over on these streams. Whenever kind of
Yeah.
pieces comes up, is one of the things that I noticed literally right away is that everybody that I talk to is super transparent, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the transparency also kind of ties into the feedback thing, because if you're not really transparent, then you probably don't take feedback very well either. Because, if somebody told you about something that you kind of already know is an issue, and then you don't want to admit it's an issue, that then you probably wouldn't take it well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, if you're not like, it's funny, like if you're not transparent, then why is that, right? Are you concerned about putting your thoughts or your opinions out there or whatever else? And when you are transparent, you do invite a lot more feedback, a lot more kind of counterpoints and things like that. But if you're transparent continuously, then you get that feedback loop nice and tight. Then that transparency can work in your benefit, right? Versus
Right.
if you kind of like hide certain information, then that can kind of explode on you later on, right? So yeah, transparency is just the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have Alex. I think Sophia. No, you're not that late. We started like 20 minutes ago ish, so it's not too bad. But hi. And then, oh, and you can thank Sophia for me even talking to you right now, because Sophia is like the only reason that I was like, oh, these pieces people are cool. She was like, oh yeah, you should talk to them. They're so cool. And I was like, really? Never heard of them before.
Yeah.
And she really convinced me, and I was like, okay, I'll talk to this Rosie person here, and we'll
Try it out.
see how it goes. And then of course, like right when I met Rosie, I was like, oh my god, they're really cool. So
Yeah, Rosie's
um
great charisma.
yeah, Rosie was great, and Rosie was great throughout. That conference. She was, at the table, and she was talking to everybody. I'm like, oh my
Oh
god,
yeah.
you're
No,
yeah. I'm like, I would be exhausted. And I was there too, but Rosie was really good at the whole demo thing and everything. It was amazing. And I see Elders here with the cat emotes. And Alex said, I totally agree with that. I was totally transparent about my skill level for my Best Buy hire, and they took me for soft skills over coding skills outright. They liked me 1.5 years later, so it worked out. Yeah, I think for the most part, like it's more beneficial if you're transparent with people. You're not always going to get the job if you are transparent, but it's worse if you're not. And
yeah.
then they're like, literally can't do anything, you know?
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So either way, transparency is a great pillar. Yeah.
And I see Rich is here. Sonoran is here. But yeah, and then we do have some questions. I think there's gonna be an ad in like 50 seconds. I'm not really sure how it works. I wanted it to let me know before it started, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. I do think that maybe there's gonna be an ad in like 40 seconds though. But so I
Well,
want to get to those two questions after I confirm the ad is over. So in the chat, let me know if there's an ad happening, and then let me know when it's over. But I did want to ask you one more thing.
yeah,
So this
yeah.
is not pertinent to your questions over there in the chat. We won't get to them until your ad's over. But the one thing that you mentioned, so you mentioned the hiring thing, and then the other thing was about it was like a couple, maybe like 10 minutes ago now, but
Building,
it
yeah,
was the thing about, you're building pieces up right now, but
yeah,
the main thing is the future, the things that haven't happened yet, right?
yeah, yeah,
um okay, I see what's happening. So apparently it's like the pre-roll ads are on. So I don't really understand that, but you should see the warnings before ads play. Okay, well, I have no idea. I have no idea how this works. It's very confusing. It's like a whole chart, and then I'm like, can I just turn them off? And they're like, no. So
That's right.
I have no idea. We'll see. Anyway, let me know if there's ads. But the whole thing was, so is it like hard to convince investors, like, oh, we're gonna be having these really cool inventive things that don't exist yet, but they will. We're laying
Yeah.
out the foundation. Is that kind of what you were referring to? Is that the issue?
Yeah, I mean, of course, investors always want things to go as fast as they possibly can, right? And that's not really been the case for machine learning, right? Machine learning's been around for a long time, and if you think about it, like I would say there was kind of I would say, and this is again like super theoretical, but basically the way that a lot of the venture capital happens is they have to deploy that capital, right? They have a time frame, they have to deploy that capital in the market, they have to put it into something. And my kind of thesis growing up was we're about to be on the cusp of this ML curve, right? And I think in sometime around like 2015, 2018, machine learning was still quite difficult. It wasn't necessarily tangible from an everyday developer's perspective. And even the hardware wasn't quite there yet. And so what we actually saw was a lot of that capital not being dumped into machine learning, but actually being dumped into crypto. And so you saw this mass influx of developers that were building on crypto technologies and blockchain and things like that. And that was pretty interesting for a while. And then basically we saw 2021, which was the advent of these large language models. And it wasn't that they were anything new. It was more so that they were, kind of that you could utilize them in an everyday product, wrapped around an endpoint, and you could do some pretty crazy stuff with them. And so, I think that kind of comes back to the difficulty of just like building machine learning is, you kind of have to say like, hey, look, investors are investing not only in your execution capability, but also how high you think you can put the ceiling. And a product like ours, when we think about like pieces for designers and pieces for knowledge workers and whatever else, like that's after our Series C. That's a full like 2 funding rounds later, but we're already thinking about that. So, we communicate on timelines of like 2026, 2027. We talk about the fundamental technologies around file fragments, the fundamental technologies around on-device ML. And, I think that the point of the angel round, the seed round, and the Series A is to kind of like prove your grit and demonstrate that you can land somewhere 6 months to a year ahead of other competitors. And I think, the other thing is the machine learning environment right now has a risk tolerant investor profile because they've become accommodated with how difficult it is, but they also see the profoundness in what success could mean, right? And how much it can change things. So I think we're perfectly timed in the environment. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't get easier. It's like the antibiotic thesis. It takes, longer and more capital to come up with an antibiotic, right? And it's like same deal with, from GPT-4 to GPT-5. Like it's a couple extra $1 billion just to train GPT-5, but investors are down for it because they know it could be a massive step function. So we're on a much smaller scale, but we think that developer tools can fundamentally be reinvented, and then you can say, all right, we did it for developers. Now let's kind of reskin it and think about it for other markets: designers, engineers, animators, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one cool thing about pieces is that, in my opinion, it can kind of infinitely scale into
Right.
something bigger and bigger because I feel like there's just so many things you can do with it. Maybe you can come up with some idea and then you're like, all right, this is my idea and this is what it's going to be, period. And you've kind of put it inside of a box. But I kind of feel like pieces isn't really in a box, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's things that, you can keep on going. I don't
Yeah.
know to what extent, but I feel like there's a lot of potential. And also, when kind of new technologies arrive in our world, then probably they're going to be implemented somehow and then it'll keep on growing. So
Yeah.
I think that is a really cool thing. I love the innovation and kind of the progress because I'm sort of also, you know, um, I have kind of a short attention span. So I feel like things kind of changing all the time is really cool for me personally, just because I love new things, and I'm like, oh, new changes, good. Like I can learn something new. I feel
Yeah.
like that's also why I feel like a lot of software developers are the same. You know, we like
Yeah.
to keep on learning, otherwise we get really bored, and you
Yeah.
know.
That's probably why there's like 30 web frameworks, it's
Right.
like,
They're like, I'm bored.
it's like another one. Let's make this, reversing of a DOM tree 100x faster. And then you get like solid JS or something.
Right. I think, people always come up with new things, and I think especially in this industry. So it's just really cool. I'm happy to be part of the team. I think it's awesome. I guess they're not going to get an ad, so I have no idea. We're going to go to those questions.
Oh, cool.
So Richard, he's the documentation guy.
Okay.
He says, "What is Piece's approach to documentation in respect to the open source community and the developer community?"
Yeah, we want to make sure that, like, when it comes to Pieces, in the open source community, we want to make sure Pieces has value add for the individual and for open source. So I would imagine when we roll out, pricing and stuff like that, there will probably be some type of open source tier that is significantly discounted versus like your classic team and enterprise. And then, we still want to make sure like this thing is A plus for the individual developer. And one of the lowest common denominator activities that developers have to do, but maybe don't like to do, is write documentation. And, the thing about documentation today is, you know, um, it needs to be granular. However, the granularity requirement is what takes the most time, right? And so for it to be granular and say, like, on this website, here's the command you got to run, here's a project to reference, here's a config, whatever else, like those are all the things you kind of, inherently interact with as you're building something. And those are the things that should be reflected in documentation, right? So, our whole goal is to capture the work in progress journey, or allow you to capture that work in progress journey. And then if you have it captured to a high level of granularity, then you can generate very granular documentation, right? And so I think that it's not necessarily like the final implementation, right? A bit of code can be, can have 3, 4, 5, 10 hours of research behind it. How do you, associate that research and that documentation with that bit of code at a very granular level? And the last thing I'll say is documentation is not only important for individuals, but it's also important for large language models, right? For them to have context to say, like, here's the outside world and here's how it's related to this model. So when it's kind of, doing RAG on your code base, it's saying like, okay, here's a bunch of sites that I can go and research when I'm looking at this bit of code. Maybe it's for a pull request or something like that. And so moving documentation closer to the code is helpful for those large language models, but also increasing the granularity of that documentation will also help them. So yeah, big emphasis on documentation. I probably just said that like 10 times, but documentation is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, and Richard already has feedback about our documentation a little bit. He was messaging me, so I have to tell somebody
Oh,
about
on
that
our
later.
doc, right? Yeah.
He mentioned something about the wording on one of the things. He was like, it should be this, and that would be a little bit more clear. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Richard, I
Yeah.
agree
Yeah.
with
No,
you.
no, yeah. Throw up a pull request and we'll get that fixed. We are in the middle of a doc site revamp right now to make it product centric and update all the content, as opposed to like feature centric. So yeah, any
That's
thoughts?
cool.
Super appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard. Yeah, I think I told him about that, but I'm not sure. If you do want to, if you do come up with any ideas, definitely just make a pull request. That's also something about the transparency and the feedback thing that I liked. Like, you can literally just open a pull request and be like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm experiencing. I think other people are experiencing the same thing here. And people, I think, somebody from Pieces will get back to you like within the day, probably, usually like 24 hours, somebody's going to respond. So it's
Yeah.
really cool. Okay. Yeah. Cause I got, I don't know if Richard was already in the Discord, but I was like, get in the Discord. That's where all the people are. And just in case I can't answer all your questions, somebody in there definitely will be able to. And that's awesome. That's awesome though.
Yeah.
Mason's
Last week
great.
was probably a little slow because most of the team was out for that conference thing. Yeah. So
Yeah, we were all there. It was so funny. They were like, wow, you guys brought a lot of people. And we were like, well, it's kind of by default. I think I was there by default. I was originally going to go, and then I think Jim was originally going to go, or somebody else. So we just
Yeah.
ended up having like a whole crew of people.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I mean, it turned out to be decent because like most of the engineering teams were back here just like grinding last week, and so yeah, it was nice and quiet on our side. But no, there's going to be some catch up, and we'll get it all adjusted. So back to the
Yeah.
grind for the DevRel team. Yeah,
Yeah, I hope you can go to that conference eventually, because it is a very special conference. I don't know if you got heard some feedback yet from the other people on the team, but it's just different. Like the emphasis on community is just so genuine there, where
yeah,
even at like a normal conference, there's a stage, right,
yeah,
and there's the other stages for the talks. Um, on the main stage, like Roxy got to go up there. I got to go up there like 3 different times. It was just wild. I'm like, they're just letting random people up there. Not random because we know them, but it felt that way. I was like, wow, I could just get up on
yeah.
a stage. They did so much up there and kind of made you feel like, oh, we're all on the same level. Some
Right.
conferences you feel like, oh, there's like speakers up here and they're very separate, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like kind of one of the things about that conference that's really special, you just feel kind of the same as everybody, and everybody can talk to, whoever they want to. And it's just really cool. No, no, Roxy, you are special. You are, on the top tier of specialness.
I love that.
um,
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
just
taking it away.
yeah, I like that though when they yeah, everyone's just kind of like on the same level, like no one's like put up on a pedestal or whatever, and then you can just have like super open conversations. Sometimes like I just don't like conferences that make people feel their imposter syndrome extra. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe that's a good way of putting it, is like so many people already have doubts about what they know and how they can and they're scared to ask questions and whatever else because they don't want to look dumb or something. And it's like, no, the best conferences are where no dumb questions, everything's a good time, like everyone's here to learn and grow. I like that. Yeah.
Right. Right. And yeah, Richard, you're special too. Richard was up on the stage with me and Roxy at the same time. There was a bunch of people for that one. But yeah, that's one of the things I really like too. And Clark kind of puts an emphasis. I think it also goes back to the leadership, right? And I think that's also why, like after I talked to Rosie the first time, I was like, oh man, the CEO guy is really cool.
Thank you.
Usually you think like, CEO scary, right? Kind of like intimidating. But I met you, I was like, wow, this guy is really friendly. And it's kind of the same with Clark. Like he's just really genuine, and he's not afraid to show you like the bad parts, right? It's not all, what is it, like sunshines and flowers? I don't know what the saying is. I always forget sayings, but
Yeah. No, I think
yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I think one thing for me is like, when it comes to approachability is just I spend so much time like getting humbled by the difficulty of work that I involve myself in, just staring at like error messages for end on end and, and things like that. And so I can like bring that empathy with, with my conversations. And I just know the pains of like building things, right? And it just could be a really hard challenge, or even something as simple as like, what's the right bash command, to do a get rebase, right? And you're just like, oh boy, here we go. And so, that just allows me to have a mindset where I'm like, all right, like no one's too cool for anything. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good of a developer you are, you're going to be getting humbled all the time, just by tech itself. And so that just like lets you, just kind of take the arrogance off, right? And then everything else is chill. And also too, it puts problem levels in a hierarchy, right? Where you're like, okay, we have a problem with like finances, right? Or like I got to do something. I'm like, well, that's no problem because that's like solvable within like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, versus like some technical challenges you're talking about like months, right? And so you learn that patience skill, and you learn that like, don't be too cool for school because yeah, it's just like I don't know. I just get a lot of humble soup throughout my work, and so I bring that to my conversations. Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's really important. It's probably also because you're the CEO, but you're also a developer, so you know what's going on.
Yeah.
I guess it could be easy, like as a CEO, if you don't really know exactly what's happening, to kind
Yeah.
of get disconnected from
Yeah.
it, and then you don't have as much like empathy for people that are in grinding on whatever it is
Yeah.
you're trying to push out at the moment. Yeah, I think that's also, Clark. I feel like he's always there at the
Yeah.
conference, and he's always talking with people, and he's kind of in it all the time.
Yep.
So he has that like empathy, and he knows what's going on. And yeah, just really cool. I hope you can go to one of them, just because I think you'd love it. And I'm sure people would be like, oh my god, the CEO is
We'll
here.
make it. We'll make it happen sooner or later. Yeah. I'll be at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
I'll be at a couple more conferences later this year. So yeah.
Oh, what's the next one that you're going to?
I think it's FlutterCon in New York in September. So we'll be giving some cool talks up there, and then I think maybe like 2 or 3 of us are going to go to GitHub Universe, which would be cool. And then I know that there's a bunch of other conferences that either I'll be at or other team members will be at. Yeah, so we'll see, but there's a
Very
lot, a lot
cool.
of conferences. Yeah,
All right. There's one more question from Upa, and then we're gonna finish up soon. And if so, now is the time. If you guys have any weird questions for
yeah, throw it
Tsavo, any funny questions, whatever you want to know about Tsavo that you wouldn't know otherwise, please ask them now. This is your only chance, because every other, stream is gonna be serious, maybe. But all right, but Upa has a question here. He says, how does Pieces ensure efficient data processing and storage on local devices?
Yeah,
For background, Upa is like a DevOps Docker,
right.
person. So
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, the data storage side is pretty chill. It just comes down to like file IO. And basically, there's a good amount of local databases like ISAR and Sembast and Brick that are available through the kind of Dart community. Those are pretty chill. I think the harder thing is more so around like efficient data processing. When do you cold start models? When do you have them running in the background? How much memory are they taking up? And also too, like, yeah, I mean, we have a kind of a graph database architecture. And so, we try and make it super efficient at runtime to like O of one look up things and return those back over the HTTP requests. But the challenge is there is like, if you have things in memory that are typically, at the file level persisted, then you're going to have an increase in RAM, right? So, it's always trade-offs of like, how fast can we get the read write ops versus like, do we keep it in memory and how much RAM are we using? And then also too, like, embedding types, like that's another one. Do you use NCS, which is basically a giant lookup map and it's super fast, but uses a lot of RAM? Or do you use Gina embeddings, which is basically a transformer that, takes more CPU, but, executes a little bit slower? So you're just trying to make those trade-offs. And I think for us, our goal is to target Pieces OS to consistently run like less than 2 gigs, but our goal for next year is less than 1 gig without losing any functionality. Actually, all the functionality goes up. And then, yeah, I mean, there's also hardware acceleration. Like if you have GPUs, how do you split the computation between GPU and CPU? It's just like all types of stuff. But yeah, the way we ensure it is we just spend a lot of time on it, to be honest, measuring things, optimizing things, breaking things, and go from there. Yeah.
yeah, I know people are always talking about that, in the chat and stuff. So I'm like, I feel like we're working on that every day, literally.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. And so, all right, we got one random question. I don't know if Mika means coding languages or regular human languages, but what languages are you fluent in, Sabo?
Yeah, so English is my main language. I'm a dual citizen with the Netherlands, so I can actually understand Dutch quite extensively. My mom and I went on a bike ride this morning, and she was speaking to me in Dutch like the whole time, and it was pretty funny. And yeah, and then when it comes to programming languages, like I come from the JavaScript TypeScript world. I learned Java in college, which is classic. I know Rust okay. I know Go and Dart. I know Dart very, very well. But yeah, mostly like I wrote TypeScript for like 10 years, which is hilarious. So I was really deep on that. And then, I like the native languages though. Dart's really nice. Yeah. I can
Cool.
get into
Yeah,
all
I
types
saw
of
I saw Brian's talk about Rust, Dart, and was it Flutter?
FYI.
I think it was Flutter.
Yeah, yeah, it's F
Um,
Flutter. Yeah,
yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Because I don't know Rust or Dart, and he made it seem easy. So I was like, oh, it's not that hard. But then at the
yeah,
very end, he was like, but it's hard, and I was like, oh, I was convinced that it was easy from your
yeah,
talk, and then he reminded us, I think that Rust was hard or something like that. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
too
Rust is it's
bad.
got yeah, it's just like a different model when you're writing code because like you just have to manage your own memory and know when you're like borrowing things and checking things and releasing memory versus Dart is nice because it's kind of auto memory managed, if you will. Yeah, Rust
Right,
does look.
because when he was showing us, like, I think Dart and Flutter and something, I don't know really what was going on, but at the very end he showed us some Rust, and I was like, oh man, that looks weird. And then Leah was like, it looks so foreign. Yeah, I'd never seen it before. Well, I have, but very briefly.
I
So
am a huge fan of snake case variables, though. I will say that like snake case variables are really nice. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
All right, we got a really long question here. So you have to leave at 12:30, right? Or like, do you
yeah,
have a
give or
couple
take.
more minutes?
I can be a couple minutes over it. Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Okay, let's just see. So he's got a final important question. Would you be open to adding an add-on to the live feature that provides summaries and suggestions on configurations during remote connections? I've tested the current version and didn't have much success. As a DevOps enthusiast, I'm frequently working in remote connections and think this would be very useful.
Yeah, there's a ton of work we're doing right now to power basically all client applications via the cloud, so they can isomorphically run like on device with Pieces OS or an instance of Pieces OS in the cloud, which should make that kind of shared live context, much more accessible. I would say we have a couple ways to kind of like proxy your Pieces OS locally to a cloud connection. But I would have to just kind of take a look at your setup if you're using like, Cloud Code by GitHub or, whatever the kind of setup is. Uh, yeah. Yeah. We'll have to take a look at
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. Let me know, Upa, what you're using, or I don't know. I don't know if you want to talk to Upa. I'll get you guys in
Yeah. Set it
contact
up.
if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
He's really cool and he's really into pieces. So,
All right. Rock on.
um,
Love that. But yeah,
yeah.
TLDR, we're looking at that. We're going to make it, good. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool. I hope that answered your question, Upa. Okay. And then really quick, we got really some quick questions here.
Great.
Do you
Cool.
have a favorite Pokemon? Are you into Pokemon
I
at
was
all?
more of a Yu-Gi-Oh guy, not going to lie.
Okay, because I know
Yeah,
Chevy was here and he was really into it, so I think that's why he's asking.
I was a Yu-Gi-Oh guy. If it was Yu-Gi-Oh, it's Blue Eyes White Dragon. Yeah, that's my
Okay.
yeah.
All right, we got Mika, coffee, tea, or soup. And the soup part's kind of an inside joke because Upa was saying he like eats his soup first and then drinks it or something. We were like, that's pretty
Yeah,
weird, but
I don't know. I love drinking soup. That might be a controversial opinion, but soup with a spoon just seems kind of inefficient. I don't know,
you
and
just
so
drink it. Are you on the same team as Upa here? You
I
drink your
might,
soup?
I might, as soon as it's at a point where it's like cool enough that I can kind of enjoyably like sip on it, like that's my favorite. Yeah,
All right, you guys will be good friends then.
nice.
All right, we got what's your hair care routine?
It's actually really, really basic. I mean, it's looking pretty decent. I have super straight hair, right? And so, yeah, I have a really good barber. I haven't gone to anyone else in like 7 or 8 years, so that's pretty good. He knows exactly how to cut my hair. And then usually, like, I just kind of take a comb and I'll have some gel or some putty or something, or I'll just use some like hairspray. Like I don't know what the brand is, but it's pretty good. It's like a black and gold thing, and yeah, that just depends on how fancy I'm trying to be. But usually, I'll just wear a ball cap because I don't want to deal with it. Yeah.
Really, that's good. Yeah, because I think Richard said earlier. I don't know where it went, but he actually lives near New York, so who knows? Maybe you guys will be at the same conference. I don't know if Richard wants to go to the Flutter conference in New York, but maybe when he shows up, he's going to have this exact same hair as you after this
Nice.
advice. So we'll see. We'll see
We'll,
how it goes.
we'll set up a meet, and like we'll make sure we're super vocal about where we're going to be, and I think we'll
Hmm.
probably have a good amount of tickets, so we might even give away some tickets because we won't have enough pieces team members versus the tickets that we have, so we'll
Oh,
see.
really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I might be in that area at the time,
Yeah.
so maybe I'll go, but who knows? I don't know Flutter though, so they're gonna be like, "Oh,
That's
you
all
don't know
good.
Flutter? Get out of here."
No, it's a great place to go to get convinced about Flutter. Yeah.
I was pretty convinced after Brian's talk, to be honest. He made it sound so good. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Flutter,
When
Flutter.
I go to talks about like languages that I've never used, I usually leave more confused and I'm like, well, I don't know anything now and I feel like now it's scary. But after that I was like, wow, it seems really good.
Yeah.
So,
Flutter is awesome. I will say, so the two things about Flutter are it's a rendering framework and it's got some really good FFI. But Flutter is actually mostly Dart, believe it or not. So if you know Dart, then you can lean into Flutter, but you can also use Dart just on the server side to build like CLIs or servers or really whatever. But yeah, Flutter is kind of more so on like the UI side of things.
okay.
So
And do you need to know Rust to know Dart?
no, 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 not
Okay,
at
so
all.
they can be separate. Okay, that's not that bad because you made Dart and Flutter seem really easy, but then Rust was the bad guy in the talk, I think. So I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
Rust has led to some good headbanging nights for sure. Yeah, I
okay.
the new highlighter in Pieces actually is a Rust based highlighter, and I
Oh,
implemented that.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
but not bad, not bad.
Not bad. Maybe I'll learn it. I'll have to learn it. I gotta know the same languages as the pieces people. Be legit.
Just yeah, I would just say like see Rich. I would just say learn as much Dart as you can because that's gonna like help you in 95% of cases. And then if you need to do anything that's like super hardcore, you can use Rust. Yeah.
Okay, I'll think about it. I'll learn it. See ya, Richard. And then
Nice.
I guess some people are leaving, but that's cool. That's cool that they're all chatting behind the scenes. That's amazing. All right, and I think there's one. Where did it go? Where did the question go? I think that might have been all of it. I think
I saw
Leah's using some Rust over here,
nice. Oh, very cool. Very cool.
and
Yeah.
then
I often feel lost. Yes.
how did you force 23 people to use pieces? So,
Tim.
I think you're like counting, like going to people's houses, download pieces, use
Yeah.
it.
At minimum, we gotta get you some swag for that. That's a heck of a referral effort right there. I love that.
I know. Oop was already in the swag
Okay. All
pipeline,
right.
so
Good.
he's gonna get some
At
swag
minimum.
soon.
Yeah. At minimum.
Yeah, he's got to get some. And then Richard likes Yu-Gi-Oh too. So, and then I see Krishna's here. Krishna's awesome. Krishna has been doing so much about pieces lately. He makes like YouTube videos about it, all kinds of stuff. He's
Nice.
doing great stuff.
Norbert, was your question on pieces being free right now? I think there was a question earlier
Oh
that I
yeah,
was.
I did see that one. That was way up there. I forgot about it. Thanks
No
for
worries.
mentioning it. It was like, why is pieces free? I
Yeah.
think, or something like that.
I mean, long story short, the way that it goes, at least in the kind of venture back spaces, like you have to find product market fit, and you have to hit like certain critical KPIs around your DAO to MAU. So, what's the ratio between daily active and monthly active users? And you want to make sure your retention is also like really locked in. There's a lot of psychology around fundraising, and as soon as you bring in revenue, the conversation around fundraising changes because it's now entirely around revenue versus entirely around like how sticky and viral is your product. And so we are turning on paid plans, which is cool. And there's a lot of features that we're working to ship, but the kind of existing what you have with pieces today is still going to be like very, very robust and available. It's mostly net new things that are collaborative, and for team and enterprise that are going to be paid, if you will. So yeah, we just haven't gotten around to like building out all the features for the paid plans and stuff. We do have a good amount of capital from our investors and also a good amount of credits from Google Cloud and Microsoft. So we can mostly keep everything at a very low budget. So the long story short is we haven't had to charge yet, but we will be soon enough. So yeah.
Yeah, and also even when Pieces has a paid plan, like if you were to go out and get a subscription for like ChatGPT,
Oh yeah,
Claude, all these things, like it would be so much. Even just one, I'm pretty sure it's going to be less than even just one of those subscriptions,
yeah.
right? I'm not sure.
Our base one
Um,
is going to be like $8.99. So and
right. So
that's
I was like, even if you just get ChatGPT, like it's still a
yeah,
better deal. So I'm
yeah.
like, and you get like 25 LLMs with Pieces.
That
So
is
it's
exactly,
wild.
yeah. So yeah, but long story short, we're working on that too. We're working on a lot of stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I see Francesco's here. You just came. Literally, we're about to end the stream, Francesco, but I appreciate you coming. Um, we did a stream like 2 weeks ago, and Sophia was there too. It was fun. And thank you, Leah. Yeah, I hit a follower goal. Oh,
I think
thank you, Francesco. Yeah,
Francesco
Francesco.
is Bill. Is he writing the Rust book right now? Is that right?
Yes, he's
Yeah.
writing the Rust book and he just subscribed to me. So thank you so
Nice.
much, Francesco. Yeah, he's writing a book and he started part of why I want to start the open source project with the flashcard and the Pieces SDK is because
Yeah.
he started this open source project called Rust Crab. Pretty sure
Okay.
that's the
Oh
title.
yeah, I did see that.
Did
Yeah,
you see
yeah,
that?
yeah. Is that's kind of like a crates IO type? Is it basically a repository for Rust packages or like
Yeah,
a
I think
market?
it's a repo for like anything related to Rust as far as I'm aware. Like I think there's like learning stuff on there. And one thing I thought was cool was cuz all of the issues were pretty like relatively easy. Even beginners could contribute to the project. So I was like, "Oh, this is a really cool project. Literally everybody can kind of
Okay.
contribute." But yeah, his book, it was funny because he sent me the link to the book and he's like, can you test to see if like this even shows up on Amazon? And then
Yeah.
like I accidentally bought the Kindle version. I don't even have I don't know how I did that, but it was a Kindle version that I was like, no, I want to buy the paperback. But yeah, it's not out yet.
I saw it was
I'm
like
really excited.
yeah, pretty high like pre-order or something, or pretty high like liked book on Amazon. I think I saw a tweet about that. So that's sick. Keep going. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And he said it's a repo about resources. That's what I thought. I think it's like learning
Okay.
resources and I have no idea. I guess it's called Rust Crab, so it could turn into anything. Maybe there's gonna be like some open source projects on there. If you didn't think of that, that's a good idea, probably. Like, hey, these are Rust projects you can contribute to. Yeah, and Francesco's great. Yeah, Rust mascot's a crab. Definitely a good name. All right, so we do have to go because I know I don't want to keep you. I think you have something to do right now. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, Francesco, and supporting. Upa, thanks so much for your thoughtful questions.
Yeah.
Not much trolling today, so I really appreciate that. You're always welcome to troll, but yeah, Upa does ask some really thoughtful questions.
I like
And
that.
then I don't like reading books on my phone. That's just not going to happen,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I like ebooks,
Um, yeah,
but
I love ebooks, but not on my phone. I just can't do
oh, I
that.
meant audiobooks. That's what I was thinking of. But audiobooks
Yes,
are hard to listen to if they're technical.
I
Yeah.
can't do coding
No,
audiobooks. Like
that's
anything with code, I don't even think that would be a thing. But I tried to do that before. It
I
did
tried,
not work out.
when I was in college, I tried to listen to Big Java Late Objects as an audiobook, and it was just not possible. No way.
No, it's not possible. And yeah, I like for learning how to code books or like anything related to technical stuff. Like I would rather have a paper copy so I could like actually make notes and
Annotated,
stuff.
yeah, yeah,
No, I love Upa's trolling. It's totally fine, but he did ask some really good questions earlier. So
yeah. It was
yeah,
good.
I have enough problems with videos too. But anyway, thank you so much, Tsavo. Do you have any kind of final thoughts you want to share with everyone
Uh,
or any kind of thing you want to say?
yeah, just mostly thanks for being on the journey and being early adopters for pieces and hang around. Like we're working on it. All feedback is super helpful and really appreciate the community too. Right? It's not about who you're built or what you're building, but it's sometimes who you're building with. Right? And community is key. So really appreciate what we got going on here. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And definitely, if you use pieces, leave us some feedback. There's a Discord. I don't know if the pieces, I don't know who's running the pieces thing right now, if it's Chevet or Mason.
Yeah.
If someone wants to drop the Discord in there, here,
Nice.
I'll drop it.
Nice.
The Discord is where all the talks happen, like all the discussions about pieces. Um, Let me
Yes.
see.
Yep.
How can I
Nice.
share a channel?
I think Mason got it on there too.
Oh, you got it? Okay, good, good, good. It's Mason. All right. Thank you so much, Mason. But yeah, join the Discord if you want to chat. Any feedback, put it in there, talk to us. There's so many people. Like, I think most of the team uses it. So thank you all for coming. And yes, Upa, feel free to troll next stream. This week I should be doing a stream making emotes for the subscribers here. I'll make some cats and stuff. So that will be an opportune moment for trolling for you. Yes, Sophia, it is where the cool kids are. All right. Thank you so much, Tsavo.
All right. Thanks, Ellie. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. Happy
Yep.
Monday.
Happy
Bye.
Monday. Bye.